Okay, this is the situation today, in my view, in the world today. We have endured your upside down, backwards, nonsense world for a very long time. And I think that the majority of people in the world feel that it's well past time for some new terms to be set. Firstly, something very easy and very obvious. Well, it's easy and obvious for us. It's easy and obvious to us. It's obvious to everyone else in the world and easy for everyone else in the world. But it will be very hard and maybe shocking for you, which is that we will no longer deal with you according to what you tell us about yourselves, the West, but according to what you do to us. That's how we'll identify what Western values actually are. Not by what you say, but by what you show. And that's retroactive. In other words, we're going to factor into our evaluation everything that you have always shown us about what you believe in through your actions, through your deeds, through your policies, not through your words and speeches and documents. So, of course, this should trigger an identity crisis for you, because you built a world in which only your words were supposed to be the primary thing or the exclusive thing that anyone ever used to understand your values. And you always had beautiful words. There's no question about that. You always had beautiful words. But your words and your deeds were strangers to one another. And we in the Muslim world and in the global South are painfully well acquainted with your deeds. And your deeds have had considerably greater impact on our lives than your words ever did. So we will use your actions as the true reflection of your belief system. That's how we'll know what Western values really are. And I think that's fair. And most people in the world genuinely do believe in fairness, which is probably why you always talk about fairness so much and equality and so on, because you recognize that fairness is a basic value that most people have. Fairness isn't a Western value, however. It's just one of those things that you say in speeches. But it is a value that matters to the rest of the planet, to most people on the planet. So to be fair, we have to look at your deeds, we have to look at your policies throughout history and today to assign the correct determination about what kind of people you are. And therefore, once we understand what kind of people you are, then we can determine how you should be dealt with. And as I said, looking at your actions lets us know that fairness is not a Western value. That's how I determine, and how anyone would determine that it's not a Western value, because of looking at your deeds. Now understand this process, what I'm talking about. This isn't about trying to change you, trying to change the West, or trying to make you better. Frankly, no one expects you to do that. No one expects you to agree with the opinion that your victims have of you. This is about us. This is about the Muslim world and about the global South. It's about ourselves coming to terms with the reality of what you are, how you are, and who you are in reality, so that we can stop dealing with you as if you actually are what, how, and who you constantly say you are. Because again, if you were actually your words, and your words were you, then there wouldn't be a problem in the world. But the problem is that your words catfish everyone in the world, until we meet your actions face to face. And then we realize that we've been talking to someone that doesn't exist. Now, this is for our own clarity. Coming to terms with the reality that your words are like a glamour filter that you apply to camouflage the hideous reality of your actions. See, this matters. It matters that we can properly define what your real values are. Because otherwise, frankly, we're left in a situation where we have to perpetually conclude that you're just extraordinarily inept at actualizing the values that you articulate. In other words, we have to continue believing that all the vile corruption and unfairness, the exploitation, the sabotage, the cheating, the violence, the subjugation, and so on, that all of these negative things have always been somehow catastrophic accidents, something you never meant to happen, a repeated, constant, never-ending series of wonderfully virtuous, magnanimous plans, always gone horribly awry, again and again and again. That essentially you are guilty of incessant malpractice, but not malice. Malpractice in the application of your values, not maliciousness. That you really actually do mean what you talk about. When you talk about fairness and equality, for example, you talk about free markets and fair trade and all of that, respect for sovereignty. We have to believe that you have a sincere desire to promote development around the world, for example. but just accidentally, through no fault of your own, somehow you happen to have overseen the creation of an international order that criminally dispossesses and impoverishes the most resource-rich countries in the world. That's by accident. And accidentally, all the wealth that should rightfully be in the accounts of the global south just inexplicably ended up in the accounts of Europe and America for reasons that continue to baffle and perplex you. Because it's against your belief system. Yet somehow it ended up like this. So either you're just incredibly bad at actualizing your great and wonderful values, or you're actually really great at actualizing your extremely bad values. These are the only two options. But frankly, no one can seriously entertain the plausibility of you being so accident prone for so long, and that somehow all of your accidents miraculously have resulted in your unparalleled economic benefit. So any intelligent person would have to exclude the option of any of this being inadvertent or accidental, which leaves us only with the option of malice. You have malicious values. You have predatory values. An objective evaluation of history can't conclude anything else about the West. An evaluation of the history of your deeds, your actions. So this leads for us to reset our relationship with you when we recognize and acknowledge that you actually do deliberately operate in the world according to malicious, predatory values and deliberate criminality. Criminality according to our values, the values of genuine fairness and justice and decency, because we really believe in these principles. And when we apply an evaluation of you according to our values, well, you're a menace. So, for example, the way you operated in Africa, for example, not only in Africa, but just as an example, the way you operated in Africa, the system has been that you pay us a wage to extract our wealth from the earth, our natural resources, our minerals, our gold, our diamonds, and so on. You pay us a wage to extract all of that for you, to hand it over to you. And we're supposed to be grateful to you for giving us jobs. You gave us the job of digging up our buried treasures and giving them to you. That's our job. Okay, this is obviously grotesque. And as I said, we can't reasonably believe that this disgraceful unfairness has come about by accident. No, it's come about by vicious contempt on your part. So obviously this can't be allowed to continue. We have to see all of these types of agreements as what they truly are, not as well-intentioned deals that unfortunately and unpredictably somehow ended up disadvantaging us and dispossessing us. No, they're a very calculated, deliberate plunder and subjugation. So this needs to be reversed. In other words, the deal has to be flipped. The term should be, you can extract our resources for a wage, and those resources will remain in our lands to be refined and processed and used in manufacturing in our lands for our companies. And we will sell the products that we make from our resources to you. Not the current situation where we take out our resources from the earth, give them to you, for you to process, for you to refine, and for you to use in manufacturing to make products by your companies that then you sell to us. No, this is backwards. That makes no sense. I mean, it makes sense to you. It makes sense for you, obviously, because you have no respect for the values of fairness and sovereignty. As I said, by your actions, we see what you really believe in and what you don't really believe in. You believe in unfairness, but your values can no longer be used to guide any agreements or deals that we make. Any deals or agreements between the West and the Global South has to be according to the values of the Global South. And this should apply to our human resources as well, because you do the same thing with our labor as you do with our natural resources. You extract our labor for your companies, for your products, and for your profits. And all we get is the wage and the privilege of not even being able to afford at that wage to buy the products that we make for you. So no, that has to stop. our labor for our companies, our products, our goods and services, and you can purchase that from us. Oh, we're commandeering your great reset. We're going to reset your reset because your great reset was just a revival of colonization and slavery. And that's not going to work anymore. And okay, if that means that our minerals must stay in the ground, and if it means that our labor has to slow down until we reach a higher level of manufacturing capacity, so be it. You have to decide whether your batteries, whether your electric cars and your mobile phones and your plasma televisions and all of that, you have to decide if that's more important to you, having those things, having that technology, if that's more important to you, or your domination over us is more important to you. Because the only way that you're going to get that technology is if you abandon domination. Because we can drop tools indefinitely. We can stop digging, we can stop drilling, we can stop mining, we can stop extraction until we have our own refining, we have our own processing, and we have our own manufacturing capacity. That's not a problem. We can do that. Now, if you can't wait, we're saying you can invest, but in our companies, invest in our development, invest in our industry to get our capacity up to speed. And then we'll provide you with the technology. And if one of your companies wants to work on extraction of our minerals and resources, that's fine too. But you're going to do it for a wage, not for a share of the minerals. We'll pay you for your labor. We'll pay you for your services, the same way that you're paying us a wage for our services now. I mean, when you hire someone to dig a well, for water, you pay him for his work. You pay him to dig the well. He doesn't get to take the water in perpetuity. If you hire someone who owns a moving truck to move your furniture from one house to another, okay, you hire him because he happens to own the truck. So he has the tools, he has the equipment that you don't have, and you need him to do that. So you pay him for the service, but he doesn't get to keep your furniture. So no, we're not saying that we won't do business with you, but our transactions have to be fair and proportional. So like, for example, if you want to drill oil, okay, drill it, extract it, and we'll pay you for the service. But you don't get a share of the oil. You still have to buy that. Be reasonable. And if that's unacceptable for you, then you'll just have to wait until we have the capacity to drill it ourselves, to extract it ourselves without you. You just have to wait. See, you made us already accustomed to minimum subsistence, so we can cope with it. Because coping with that only really means our ability to cope with you not being able to maintain your lifestyle. Our lifestyle will stay the same. Because of the way you've treated us, we're used to this. So we can weather an economic slowdown. You can't. It's only a slowdown for you, not for us. For us, it'll be exactly the same. Because we're not getting anything from your extraction in the first place. So if we stop extracting, you're the only one who's going to lose. And while we're at it, you know how you Westerners, you always wail and whinge about immigrants, about foreigners coming into your countries. And now that it's a big thing in the election campaign, the presidential campaign, complaining about foreigners coming into your countries and some of them committing crimes inside your borders. So now you want to crack down on immigration, legal and illegal immigration. Okay, I understand that. We feel the same way. And there are no foreigners who come into our countries and commit crimes on a vastly larger scale than you. Your armies, your military bases, your multinational corporations, your banks. And we're tired of this invasion of aliens into our borders, disrupting our societies, stealing, cheating, vandalizing, corrupting, and raping and pillaging our resources. We're tired of that too. We know how you feel, times 10. So I think we need our own border walls, regulatory walls, walls of policy that restrict your ability to infiltrate our borders. And whoever's in our countries now, whoever is in our countries now and stealing and exploiting and abusing our people and our resources, whatever company, whatever military, and whatever intelligence agency that may be, they need to be deported. Yes, you took our wealth, and then you don't want our people to come anywhere near where you took it, the place you took it to. You don't want the people to be reunited with their things. That's why you hate immigration from the global south. You don't want the people to be reunited with the wealth that you stole from them. And we know who you mean when you rant about immigration. You don't mean some flood of intra-Western immigration. You don't mean white immigration or European immigration. You mean people from the countries that you robbed. You don't want your victims anywhere near you. Well, okay, we don't want our victimizers anywhere near us. So you need to go back to your countries. And the first illegal aliens that need to be repatriated back to where they came from are the Zionists. Oh yes, you talk about illegal immigrants coming into your country and committing crimes. Meanwhile, you have been funding and facilitating the mass migration of illegal immigrants into our land, Palestine, and literally arming and training and colluding with them in their crimes, their war crimes, their crimes against humanity for decades. We're not talking about street crime. We're not talking about shoplifting. And then the rest of your criminal aliens in our lands have to go. Unless, of course, they learn to assimilate with our values. They need to assimilate with our values, with our culture, with our laws, with our customs, and with our morals. If you want to be in our lands, then you have to assimilate. Does that sound familiar? And you have to contribute to our countries. Does that sound familiar? Not parasitically leech off of us to enrich your home countries, which is what you do. Oh, we are resetting the terms of our relationship with you. And it's about time. All of the elements of your economies that rely upon our subjugation, upon our exploitation, and upon our deindustrialization, and upon violation of our sovereignty, corruption of our political systems, debt, slavery, and on and on and on, all of the elements of your economy that depend on that evil, where you're going to have to figure out some other way to survive. And that's a you problem. And of course, we all know perfectly well. Because again, we have identified the reality that your values are malicious. We have recognized and acknowledged and accepted the reality that your values are actually malicious. So we all know that your go-to survival method will be violence and brutal conquest. I mean, I can already hear you talking to yourselves along these lines. How dare they think that they can dictate to us, deprive us, disrupt our colonization-enabled lifestyles. We'll take it by force if we have to. That's how you feel. I know that's how you feel. I know that will be your knee-jerk reaction. So you really should just admit to yourselves that you are predatory tyrants and drop the pretense of having humane, enlightened values. You and I both know that you don't believe in anything but theft and violence and savagery. Why, you'll kill just for comfort, not even for survival. You'll kill just to avoid inconvenience and discomfort. You're willing to shed the blood of others just for your convenience, to preserve your convenience and easy lifestyle. That's who you are. That's what you are. So let's just put it all out in the open. You're pirates and marauders, and you always have been. Let's just be open about this with each other. And this, knowing this, collectively knowing this in the Global South about you, is itself a preemptive defense. It's a preemptive defense strategy against conquest. Because one of the main methods that you've always used, of course, is divide and conquer, pitting one group of us against the other. So when we know and we understand and we incorporate this knowledge into our own policies and our own approaches, then we can instantly recognize that when any of these types of divisive movements, when any of these types of divisions emerge, we know that you're the ones behind it. You know, you incite Africans against Arabs, you incite Sunnis against Shia, tribes against tribes, regions against regions, people against rulers, and everybody against your rivals, like against China and against Russia and so on. We know what you're doing. So we are opposing that preemptively, working to build unity and solidarity in the Global South, like in the Sahel Confederation, like with Pan-Africanism, Pan-Islamic solidarity, global pro-Palestinian unity, rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia, BRICS, inshallah, either a reform of ECOWAS or abandonment of ECOWAS if it can't be decontaminated from Western influence. You know, strengthening ASEAN, the OIC, and the Article 6 campaign to expel the United States from the United Nations so that that instrument of global consensus can actually operate properly, inshallah. These are all preemptive steps to cut you off in your inevitable attempts to divide us against one another. Because we all know, you know and we know that that's what you're going to do and that's what you're doing now. And all of this reflects the collective recognition of the Muslim world and the Global South that you, in the West, you are your deeds and not your words. And that your deeds reveal a set of pernicious, malicious, and cannibalistic values that pose nothing but a threat to humanity. So we all have to act together to contain that threat and to disarm that threat once and for all. I mean, we'll be reasonable. Let's be reasonable. If you want to have a military base, for example, if you want to have a military base in one of our countries, well, okay, you have to accept a military base of ours in your country. If you want to police security in Africa or the Middle East or Asia, okay, let's make it reciprocal. And we'll send our security forces to Chicago. We'll send our security forces to San Francisco, to Detroit, and to New York. Do you see how ludicrous that sounds? When someone suggests doing to you what you do to everyone else every day, I mean, do you want to have the New York City subway patrolled by armed Senegalese forces to protect your civilians against your armed mass shooting terrorists that you have over there? Well, fair is fair. Should be like this. I mean, the truth is your cities are more dangerous than ours, but you have your troops all over our part of the world. How does that make any sense? Even though it's none of your business. Our security is none of your business. Just like your security is none of our business. But let's play it the way that you play it. You know, you occupied land inside of Syria the size of West Virginia. So what if we sent some of our military forces over to your country to occupy, say, New Mexico? New Mexico is one of the most violent states in America. So we'll send our troops over there, occupy New Mexico, and restore order for you. How does that sound? Does that sound reasonable? I mean, let's make these security agreements reciprocal. Because let's face it, your society is far more unstable than any of ours. It's more violent, it's more dangerous, it's more explosive and more implosive than any of our countries. I mean, the only reason our countries are even dangerous at all is because you're in them. So either you let us come over there if you're going to come over here, or else we just decide to leave each other alone. I said enough of this nonsense already. The whole world is waking up and our vision is clearer than it has ever been before about you. And no one is accepting your terms anymore. No one's accepting your conditions. No one's accepting your promises and your assurances. No one is accepting your words anymore. From now on, we judge you by your actions, past and present. And if you want to change, if you want to civilize, that's up to you. But you're not the main characters in the story of the world. The entire Muslim world and the entire global South, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Central and South America, are not just supporting characters in your story. The real story of the world is what you would call an ensemble piece. But the West has never been able to accept that. The only thing that ever enabled you to push yourselves forward as the protagonist of history was your disproportionate power and the necessary ruthlessness to use it. But of course, the fact that you even did that just shows that you never were the protagonist of history, even by pushing yourself forward as that. The fact that you pushed yourself forward as that just always meant that you were nothing but the villain.